Nick, thanks for joining us. Thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's first talk about what is the Nick DiGiovanni brand? Like, what do you stand for? What do people tune in to see?
To boil it down very simply, I'm a chef, I'm a cookbook author now, and just a general sort of food social media creator. I have a huge focus on trying to get kids to learn how to cook.
There's so much, food on cable TV.
Yeah.
There's endless food on digital, YouTube, TikTok. How many followers do you have now?
I want to say close to 25 million.
25 million followers.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about you that, that stands out and gets all those folks to want to see what you're up to?
I try to keep things exciting, right? And I think at the end of the day, what I love is that everyone loves food, right? I mean, we all love food in a different way. And my approach is just trying to keep it simple and fun and exciting. And the fact that everyone loves food the way that they do makes my job easy.
How did you get your start in this bit? What was your big break?
Family. I mean, growing up, I watched so many different people in my family. They all appreciated food in a different way, and they all taught me something different about food. Some came from different backgrounds. Some had different approaches in the kitchen. They all opened my eyes to the whole world of food, and I carried that with me forever.
And you have an interesting kind of start in this world where you were a college student,
Yep.
And then you did a little reality TV. Tell me quick about how that came to be.
Yes, I was just this innocent senior in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do quite yet. I knew I wanted to chase food. I knew I wanted to do something in the kitchen or in the food realm. And it was just walking by this flyer one day that I kind of passed and then stopped, and I figured I didn't have anything to lose. I wanted to do everything I could in the food space, in the food world. And there was this flyer for MasterChef. There was an audition maybe 15 minutes away from campus, so I made a ravioli and I showed up with it, and the rest is history.
And you went to Harvard.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of your peers had dreams of business and startups and
Right.
and government and be the next president. You came into MasterChef, where most of the contestants are veteran tradesmen that grew up in restaurants. You come in as Ivy League boy. What was that like?
I mean, yeah, I certainly was the younger college student there. I've always loved to learn, and so I quickly became friends and close with so many of the people there. I initially felt like I was learning a ton from them, and I think hopefully down the line they learned a thing or two from me as well, just because I came with this sort of fresh, young, creative approach to everything we did.
Did that have any influence on your take? You're a YouTube star, TikTok star. What did you learn about showbiz, or what did you learn about creating from that experience?
I learned to be fearless. I was in front of Gordon Ramsay, who's probably the best known name in the entire culinary world, and maybe forever will be. And I just learned to go into the kitchen and not be scared and trust my gut and have fun and forget about failing. I was fearless when I left the MasterChef kitchen.
So you went from the small screen to even the smaller screen with YouTube. Take me through that, your thought process of, I want to start doing videos, and then I want to hear about what was the one video or one piece of content that was your big break in that space.
So right away, the first video that I remember going quote unquote viral was this homemade chocolate video where I took a cacao pod and I went through the whole regular process of fermenting it and roasting these beans and then taking out the nibs and making this chocolate bar. People online it was shot in terrible quality. I didn't know what I was doing. I filmed it myself. I edited it myself. That part was horrible. And I've learned more over time. But what was really there was this sort of story, and I had taught people something about food. And I was as excited about it as I think most people that saw it were. I took this everyday thing, chocolate, and I showed how it was done and what it really was. And I think that for me was just this spark that I realized I want to show this and so much more.
In a few short years, you went from, making videos to becoming your own walking, living brand to now becoming your own business.
Yeah.
What is your business now, and how do you make money?
I'm focused on continuing to grow up these different social media channels. There's certainly revenue that comes in from brand partnerships and from just, viewership on a place like YouTube. But outside of that, I've also focused on, as you've sort of suggested, creating this larger brand. So I just launched a cookbook, which was now a 5X New York Times bestseller. That was fantastic. And then I've got this salt brand called Osmo, which is also doing well kind of on its own. So that I wanted to share something that I had been a part of in the kitchen with as many people around the world as I could who are watching my videos.
In terms of you launched your own salt brand, obviously around cooking, there's so many things you can do, whether it's tools, whether it's ingredients, whether it's restaurants. What made you decide on the first thing you're going to do is the salt brand?
Salt to me was boring. It had not been changed in forever, and we all need it and we all want it on our food. It doesn't taste right without it. And so I figured, why don't I take this mundane thing that is in everyone's kitchen and try to make it exciting?
And how you do that?
We have a salt that's a roasted garlic salt, where you are literally taking garlic, you're roasting it to perfection, and then you're kind of blending it in with this salt that then dries out. It has all that flavor. It really does. It has that true flavor of roasted garlic, but just in seconds, you can go ahead and take a little pinch of it, and it totally changes whatever you're eating. It's such a simple thing, but it can completely transform your experience with food, with eating.
And everyone eats, food is everywhere, it touches everything. Tell me about some of the brand partnerships you've developed recently, and kind of how you choose who those partners are going to be.
I've had a lot of fun ones. I think ultimately with a brand partnership, there are many times where it comes down to the people, because I have the fortunate opportunity a lot of the time to meet face to face the corporate teams behind a brand like Nutella or Dunkin' Donuts, and that to me is exciting because you can really see the behind the scenes of how does this company operate, what do they do. There have been a lot of exciting and fun partnerships that have come really out of nowhere. A lot of them brands that I've looked up to my entire life that I feel so lucky to work with.
How do you, when you wake up on a Tuesday and you have like a blank slate and you're like, I'm going to create a video, or I'm going to create like the next episode. What goes through your thought process? Like, how do you decide like what my topics are going to be? And also, I've seen, your videos are a great combination of education, but then also call it stunts, if you will, whether it's, you're making the world's biggest chicken nugget, or I saw you recently on there with Shaq making like Shaq burgers and stuff. Like, how you decide what the video is going to be, and how do you kind of balance, kind of extreme cooking versus like, okay, here's some like hardcore skills that, kids could learn? Or
I have a fantastic team around me. That there's no question about that. And there's so much inspiration that I can gather and pull from and with all of them. But outside of that, I think there is, as you've suggested, this balance between these crazy extreme videos that you often see online now. It's just, people are trying to do anything they can to grab your attention, right? And also that classic humble home cooking video that I kind of started out doing. And so I have not yet figured out the perfect balance to that. I don't think anyone has, but it is certainly difficult sometimes to know, how crazy or extreme do we want to make this, or do we want to kind of keep it more simple? It's all about finding that balance.
How big is your team now?
My kind of close-knit in-person type thing is usually 5-6 people, something like that. But then, I think now much bigger in the sense of we've got people working on the salt company. We've got everyone on the cookbook team. We've got PR. We've got such a wide range of different people doing different things. So it's become much bigger than I ever sort of dreamed that it would be.
So tell me, how do you make that transition of, you were originally by yourself making a video on chocolate, because you wanted to, you enjoyed it and you wanted to, put it out there. Now you went from a creator to you're your own business. You're an entrepreneur. You're running teams and running products. How did you make that jump?
A lot of it is just failing and learning is the truth. We've gotten hit with different fines that I never thought, from not setting something up properly with out-of-state employees. There's things that I learned that have forced me to pull everything together and keep kind of legitimizing things and growing. So in some ways, it's actually been really difficult, because I've had the conversation and thought about it quite a few times, where all I ever really wanted to do was just make these fun, entertaining, engaging food videos, right? And I learned to edit and I learned to film, and that was it. And then suddenly, I had to bring this person on, and then another person, and then more and more, until you sort of look back and you're wearing a couple more hats than you in some ways signed up for. So I've loved learning about all of it. I've loved growing, but it's forced me to kind of go outside my comfort zone in so many ways.
So what's kind of the end game here? I mean, you have so many options, whether it's media, whether it's products, whether it's your own restaurants. Like, what are you aiming for? Like, what is the goal here?
The simple answer is I have no idea in some ways. In some ways, I know what my fundamentals are, and especially, keeping true to the idea that I want to teach kids to cook. That's a huge, huge part of it. I think I'm nervous that people are going to cook less and less over time. It's so easy to pull up your phone and order something now. I do it too. I mean, it's simple, but I want people to keep that. I think it's really important to know how to cook. But ultimately, I don't know. I don't know where this will all lead. Sometimes I'm taking things day by day, sometimes week by week, and I love every minute of it, but I have no idea where it will keep going, which excites me.
Yeah. You're a one-person brand, a one-person media platform, 25 million followers. What are the trade-offs with that internet fame?
I mean, there's no doubt that there's certainly that kind of underlying stress, whether you realize it or not at sometimes. Time also becomes a difficult thing. It's something that at first you don't really think too much about, and then ultimately you're kind of having to weigh so many things at times, and it becomes really, really difficult. So I think I've done a great job at staying grounded. I've got all my same friends. I see my family all the time. I go visit my grandma as much as I possibly can. And that's what is important to me.
What is the secret to building a massive social media following?
I think if you have something that excites you and you can find a simple and clear way to use that passion, use that energy to excite other people, that's the very simple answer to that. Obviously, the details become much more complicated when you start to talk about distribution and cameras and editing things and all that kind of thing that someone like me has to sort of figure out over time. But ultimately, it comes down to you having this passion that you can find a clear way to share with people.
What advice would you give to a brand or a company? What should they think about before they choose to partner with a specific influencer?
It sounds cliche, but authenticity is super key. People are smart. Viewers are smart, and they're going to realize and know if whatever you're doing or presenting is not authentic. So long as that partnership is authentic, I think that's where the best things happen. And I think that's where I see the most success.
How do you, as an entrepreneur and a creator, how do you balance kind of the needs and expectations of your massive fan base with the needs and expectations of your growing business?
Yeah, I try to keep things fairly clean when it comes to overloading, my pages with advertisements or brand partnerships. And I think one thing that helps for me is kind of that I've created this brand on the side, the Osmo. That allows me to have this sort of other, project, to put it simply, that I'm working on and not have to be going too overboard with accepting every partnership that comes in. So I think one thing that is ultimately very helpful as a creator is to be able to have a little bit more, is to be able to pick and choose who you're working with. Once you see that shift where you begin to get more brand offers than you can actually handle, that's when you can be picky, and it makes it a lot easier.